Today, we continue with our enchanting story of the little prince. Let yourself be accompanied and comforted once again by the wisdom and the simple yet profound messages of the little prince on this journey. Enjoy this journey and remember, one sees clearly only with the heart. What is essential is invisible to the eye. The Little Prince, based on a story by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Chapter 7. The Importance of Thorns. On the 5th day, once again thanks to the sheep, I uncovered another secret from the life of the little prince. Suddenly, without preamble, he asked me, as if a grave doubt had been weighing on his mind for a long time, "A sheep, if it eats little bushes, does it eat flowers too?" "Yes, it eats everything it finds." "Even flowers with thorns?" "Yes, even flowers with thorns." "Then what are the thorns for?" I had no idea. I was busy trying to unscrew a tightly jammed bolt on my engine. I was very concerned about my malfunction and was running out of water. "What are the thorns for?" The little prince never let go of a question once he had asked it. I was irritated by my bolt and answered without thinking. "The thorns are of no use at all. Flowers have thorns just for spite." Oh, there was a moment of silence. Then the little prince lashed out at me with a kind of bitterness. "I don't believe you. Flowers are weak." "They are naive. They reassure themselves as best they can. They believe their thorns make them terrifying." I had nothing to say. At that moment I was thinking, if this bolt still won't turn, I'll hammer it out. The little prince interrupted my thoughts again. "And you actually believe that flowers?" No, I don't believe anything. I just said whatever came into my head. I'm busy with serious matters." He stared at me, dumbfounded. Serious matters. He saw me with my hammer, my fingers black with grease, bending over an object which seemed to him extremely ugly. "You talk just like the grown-ups." That made me a little ashamed, but he added mercilessly, "You mix everything up. You confuse everything." He was really very angry. He tossed his golden curls in the breeze. "I know a planet where there is a certain red-faced gentleman. He has never smelled a flower. He has never looked at a star. He has never loved anyone. He has never done anything other than add up figures. And all day he says, over and over, just like you, 'I am a serious man. I am a serious man.' And that puffs him up with pride. But he is not a man. He is a mushroom." "A what?" "A mushroom." The little prince was now white with rage. "For millions of years, flowers have been growing thorns. For millions of years, sheep have been eating them just the same. And it is not important to try to understand why they go to such trouble to grow thorns which are of no use. The war between the sheep and the flowers is not important. Is it not more serious and more important than the sums of a fat red-faced gentleman? And if I know, I myself, one flower which is unique in the world, which grows nowhere but on my planet, but which one little sheep can destroy in a single bite some morning, without even noticing what he is doing. Oh, you think that is not important." His face turned from white to red as he continued, "If someone loves a flower, of which just one single blossom grows in all the millions and millions of stars. It is enough to make him happy just to look at the stars. He can say to himself, "Somewhere my flower is there," but if the sheep eats the flower, in one moment all his stars will be darkened, and you think that is not important. He could not say anything more. His words were choked by sobbing. The night had fallen. I dropped my tools. My hammer, my bolt, my thirst and my death were nothing to me now. There was a little prince to be comforted. I took him in my arms. I rocked him. I said to him, "The flower that you love is not in danger. I will draw you a muzzle for your sheep. I will draw you a fence for your flower." I did not know what to say to him. I felt clumsy and awkward. It is so mysterious, the land of tears. Chapter 8. The Little Prince and His Flower. Soon I got to know this unique flower. On the little prince's planet, there had always been simple flowers with just a single ring of petals, taking up little space and causing no trouble. They would appear in the grass one morning and fade by evening. But one day, from a seed whose origin was unknown, a very special plant sprouted. The little prince watched this small sprout very closely, as it didn't look like the others. It might have been a baobab at first, but the shrub soon stopped growing and began to produce a flower. The little prince sensed that a miraculous apparition would emerge from this enormous bud. Yet the flower took her time to emerge, preparing her beauty in the shelter of her green chamber. She chose her colors carefully, adjusted her petals one by one, and did not want to emerge all wrinkled like the poppies. She wished to appear in full radiance. Her mysterious preparation lasted several days. Then, one morning at sunrise, she finally revealed herself. The flower, having worked so precisely, yawned and said, "Ah, I am hardly awake. I beg your pardon. I'm still rather tousled." The little prince could not contain his admiration. "How beautiful you are!" "Am I not?" the flower responded sweetly. "And I was born at the same time as the sun." The little prince realized that she was not overly modest, but she was so enchanting. "I believe it's time for breakfast," she added. "Would you be so kind as to think of me?" The little prince, completely abashed, fetched a can of fresh water and gave the flower a drink. Soon enough, she began to torment him with her rather touchy vanity. One day, for instance, she mentioned her 4 thorns and said to the little prince, "Let the tigers come with their claws." "There are no tigers on my planet," the little prince objected, "and besides, tigers do not eat grass." "I am not grass," the flower replied softly. "Please forgive me. I am not at all afraid of tigers, but I have a horror of drafts. You wouldn't happen to have a screen?" "A horror of drafts? That's not very fortunate for a plant," the little prince remarked. "This flower is quite complex. At night you will put me under a glass dome. It is very cold where you live. It's not well arranged where I come from." She suddenly stopped talking. She had come in the form of a seed. She could have known nothing of other worlds. Embarrassed over having let herself be caught on the verge of such a naive lie, she coughed 2 or 3 times in order to put the little prince in the wrong. "The screen?" I was going to look for it, but you were speaking to me." Then she forced her cough a little more, so that he should suffer from remorse just the same. So, despite the goodwill of his love, the little prince had soon come to doubt her. He had taken seriously words which were of no importance, and it made him very unhappy. "I ought not to have listened to her," he confided to me one day. "One never ought to listen to the flowers. One should simply look at them and breathe their fragrance. Mine perfumed all my planet, but I did not know how to enjoy all her grace. This tale of claws, which disturbed me so much, ought to have touched me with pity." And he continued his confidences. "In those days, I didn't understand anything. I should have judged her by deeds and not by words. She cast her fragrance and her radiance over me. I ought never to have run away from her. I ought to have guessed all the affection that lay behind her poor little stratagems. Flowers are so inconsistent, but I was too young to know how to love her. Tauoteke